Good morning. Welcome to Wednesday's edition of Game Changer. What's up, Diana?
Midweek.
Huh?
We're midweek.
Midweek? Say it again. Midweek?
Apparently, I can't pull the mic the way David wants it to be.
He
wanted to help out.
You know what?
Those of you that you can't see, yes, he's a control freak.
You have so much wisdom to,
You lie.
bestow upon us. I just didn't want anybody to miss any word that you said.
All right, I'm not gonna lie. I'm giving him 8 points for that turnaround. Giving him 8 points for that turn.
Yeah, that's what it was.
A+ for BS. Okay.
Babe.
Sorry, guys. Sometimes I need to filter my mouth through my heart.
So good morning. Welcome to Game Changer. My wife just said that statement was full of it. I meant it. She had wisdom. I didn't want anybody to miss anything. We've been talking about glass half full. See, I looked at it as a half full situation. See, she looked at it as a half empty, like, oh, David's trying to control where the mic sits. I really wasn't. I just looked over and I said, the mic.
Why doesn't everybody post in the comments what they really think?
If you're watching, do you think that David genuinely wanted people to hear Diana, or he was just obsessed with the microphone being?
He didn't like where it was positioned, I promise
in the
you.
wrong position. Good morning, Christina on YouTube.
Yes.
And good morning on Facebook. We've got Adam. We've got Mike. Mike, that mug's on its way. Mike won a mug yesterday. Dumasani, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I know we have more. I see the eyeballs. If you're in the chat, just give us your feedback. Which one do you think it is? Do you think that I genuinely was concerned? You're not going to offend us.
Dumasani answers the correct way.
He said yes. No, he just...
No, he has the emoji with the mouth with the zipper over it.
Good morning, Sandra. Good morning. Good morning. If you guys are watching this and you're able to share it and you feel... and you're okay with it, share the show so maybe someone can be blessed this morning. We're going to continue day 3 on glass half full, and really we're talking about obviously our life. We're talking about how we view it, but more importantly, I think we've moved beyond viewing it. When you say glass half full, I mentioned this yesterday. A lot of times, people stop with the viewing. They stop with, the glass is that person's a glass half full, or that person's a glass half empty kind of person. And it moves beyond that into our actions and how you really know. I think the heart of someone is through their fruit. And
don't judge me by my words this morning. Just saying.
No, but by the fruit, not by your word, no, by your fruit. I think that, no, I know you didn't. I know that ultimately you were grateful for that because of your fruit, the fruit that you bring. What's up, Joe Calla? And, so the fruit that you bring, I think that, if you're bringing fruit, I think that sometimes the way you react, can be an exception and people can overlook that. I really do. Good morning, Dana. Adam said, Diana's right. Sorry, David. All right. He knows who writes the paychecks and stuff here, I guess. But, I wish somebody, he may really feel that way. All right. So if you guys are missing, if you're tuning in, you're wondering what we're talking about, you can just watch the beginning of the show. Maybe you can comment on it after it's over. We're going to dive into, we kind of ended yesterday at point 2. He said, don't fire me. You're good, man. You're good. Keep getting those demos, baby. I know so let's move off of this for a second. No, point number 2, and we kind of talked yesterday. Scroll up, Mike, so I can just reiterate point number 1. We looked at Numbers chapter 13, right? We were looking at the, people. Now look, this is a real serious situation because, we always kind of dog on, and even in the first couple of days, we dogged on these spies, right? We're like, oh, these spies went in, and 10 of them saw the giants, and yeah, they saw the opportunity, but they were like, man, we're like grasshoppers. That's what they said. We're like grasshoppers compared to them, right? And we look at them, we kind of dog them out. We've been doing that even this week. We've been like, oh, this is a glass half empty. They viewed the obstacles, and then here's Caleb and Joshua, right? The 2 out of the 12, they viewed the opportunities and said, hey, we see these giants, but man, you should see these grapes. And listen, that's the way we should do it. That's the glass half full. But come on, can we just all be honest for a second? We really can't dog out the 10 because, they were faced with they were looking at these giants. They were thinking, okay, this is our life on the line. So there's a justifiable reason why sometimes we view things and then even act out things as a glass half empty. So yesterday we looked at this story, we looked at the Numbers 13, we kind of broke it down, and we said that, sharing 4 things from this story that would help us, right, allow God, and that's the key right there. It's not that we can't help God do it. God doesn't need our help doing it, right? God can do all things, right? So he doesn't need our help doing it, but he needs us to allow him, because the Bible says the Holy Spirit's a gentleman, which really what that means is like, look, he from the very beginning, if he wanted you and I just to do it because he said so, then he'd just create more angels, because the angels spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right, serving and honoring God, and they don't really have a free will, but he created you and I in his image and in his likeness, and he gave us a free choice and a will, and he said, look, I want you to want me. I want you. Jason Derulo didn't write that song first, so I want you to want me, right? God wrote that song. He's like, I want you to want me. And in Numbers, we're looking at it here. So we have to allow God. And these are 4 things to turn our obstacles into our opportunities. And we said yesterday, we have to realize that our ministry is God's work. Okay. And in point 2, and we'll start the day off with this. I think we mentioned it yesterday. We must remind ourselves that we've been chosen by God to serve him where he's placed us. And then we brought up the book, Bloom, where you're planted. And so he's chose us, right? To whether you're in the pulpit or the classroom, you have to have a sense of the opportunity, right? The unbelievable opportunity, the big opportunity that we have to impact the hearts and minds of people that God loves and has a plan for. And that's what it's really all about, right? You could be sitting next to that person that you don't care for, or you could be, mentoring the person that that's frustrated or has issues. And, you can look at those things but do you realize that possibly God has you there in that situation because there's an opportunity, an unbelievable opportunity to impact that person's heart, and then even set the plan that God has for their life in motion. And so we should arrive every day, right? To the school, to the church, to the business, to the home, to the family, every day believing that God is able. So here's point 2, remind yourselves that you've been chosen by God to serve him right where he's placed you. Amen? Boom.
That's good. I think we always think of ministry as somewhere, your small group or, within the confines of the 4 walls. But I think the greatest ministry really is where you spend the bulk of your day, which most likely is either school or work. And then obviously next underneath that, I think it's really important. I think we've missed that a lot in serving, because if you have a heart to serve, you'll do it, full steam at the expense of the people that should have your attention the most. So I think also your household is very, very important, starting with your spouse and then your children. So I think we have to make sure, again, I'm a big component and believer in I'm a big believer in balance, and I think that's really important. But I think we have to invite God to show us those balances so that we can do them. I was thinking about glass half full and half empty, and when I was kind of thinking about it this morning, I was thinking, what? Sometimes we're probably separating our lives and compartmentalizing it to all these little glasses, so it's easy to see it as half empty, versus taking and putting our life as one big cup and realizing maybe it's not half empty or half full. Maybe it's full. We're just compartmentalizing all these areas because in this place we need to be this way, in this place we need to be at this place, and at this situation, in this relationship we need to be this, and we're compartmentalizing all these things. But no matter what, we're just one person. And so we can put ourselves in one cup, or we can divide it. So I think maybe it's also perspective and how we're looking at it, that maybe we're compartmentalizing so many areas of our life. Like, this is the way I need to be at work. This is the way I need to be at, church. This is the way I need to be in my household, versus you are who you are, and blending all those things together. I think when we realize maybe we aren't lacking, maybe it's just we're not putting everything together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I mean, I think that we have to view it that way because if not, we start to view it, and we always view it in the sense of lack, or the perspective of lack. And the reality is, if you view it that's the enemy's way always. Even if you have room to grow, God really doesn't view it and talk to you that way. He He doesn't look at you and constantly point your faults out. You know, the people in the Bible is interesting because Jesus hung out with, ministered to, lived with, spent time with, right? Invited close to him people that were unqualified according to the world's standards, you know, or maybe unqualified according to the religious community standards. And the ones that he pointed out, like their shortcomings, were always the religious leaders, not just any religious leader, you know, but the religious leaders that were were quick to point out others' faults, were the ones that had, you know, things that they dealt with all the while pointing out everyone else's faults. And so Jesus didn't really have a lot of time for that, right? And so he spent time with people that had room in their cup, but he never pointed out the fact that, hey, you need to, you know, look, you got room in there. You need to do something about that. He just spent time pouring into them. And as they spend time, as you spend time with Jesus, true, real time with Jesus, something happens and you begin to get better. You begin to want to get better. And you begin to notice, because as we measure up against the Jesus, and that's who the only person that we should measure up against, right? The glass half full thing is for the birds, right? Just push that aside, because look, here's the reality. If you can fill your glass up according to world standards, you could always find a glass that's fuller, bigger than yours. It has more than you. And so there's just a bigger glass. And someone's always going to have a bigger glass or a smaller glass. And so put that aside for a second. And if you're going to measure and if you're going to look at it and say, okay, where do I stand? Now, he's not going to do it this way, but he'll love you so much as you spend time with him, you'll begin to want to be like him. You know how they say that you know, birds of a feather flock together, or, you know, if you are who you hang out with. Well, there's so much truth to that. And as you begin to hang out with Jesus and as you begin to spend more time with him, you'll want to be like him. You'll want to dress like him. You want to talk like him. You want to walk like him, so to speak. And you'll look at it and you go, okay, so that's how Jesus does it. And you begin to catch yourself, because that's what happens when you hang around somebody, you know, for any kind of lengthy period of time, that, you know, that is somewhere you want to be. And I just think that we need to view it that way. So I think that viewing it in a positive lens is a must, because that's the way that God views it. The enemy views it always through your lack. He always points out, possibly it could be the truth, but he points it out and he condemns you over it. Right? He makes you feel bad about it. He shows you the shortcomings. He and that's not God. And so let's look at number 3 really quick. And I think this is a really big one. You know, we talk at the same time that we sometimes dog out the spies, right? We look at the 10 that came back with a negative report. We also we also promote the 2 that came back with a positive report. And sometimes, you know, if you're not careful, you could also measure yourself up against them and say, well, you know what? I'm not like Caleb or Joshua. You know, I mean, they viewed this and this, and they must be perfect or whatever. And the reality is they're not. And, you know, and if you look at what they saw, they both saw the problems that the other 10 spies saw. So number 3 is we must see both the opportunities and the obstacles. So one time Diane and I were talking, you know, I don't know if she remember this or not, but she said this. It was years and years ago. You know, as a visionary, I see a lot of times the big idea and the big picture, or that's typically what I gravitate towards. And so I'll be the guy, if you want to use a word picture, you know, looking in the binoculars across, you know, the horizon, and everybody's around, and I'm like, hey guys, that's where we're headed. You see it? Do you see it? Oh my God, look at that. Here, take these binoculars. Look at it here. Oh, look, what do you see? Oh my God, yeah, isn't that beautiful? You see right there on that, that's where I'm going to build my house. See, that's where we're headed there. That's where we can build this stream, and that's where we're going to do this and that. And everybody gets fired up about it. And then we begin on that journey. All right, guys, you ready? Let's go get this thing. And we take the first step. And Diana is the person, she told me one time, she's like, I'm the person that makes sure the first step that you step in is not a hole. You're seeing way over there, and I'm seeing right in front. And so, you know, because look, I'm just going to be like running full steam, break my leg, fall over into a hole, right? And then and so the thing is that you need to look at the obstacles and view them as obstacles and understand that these are obstacles and obstacles need to be dealt with. But then you also need to see the opportunities. And Caleb and Joshua in Numbers 13, when the other 10 spies only saw the obstacles, Caleb and Joshua saw the problems that the other spies saw. And it's not that they saw the world through like rose-colored glasses. They saw and acknowledged reality. However, they trusted God, right? And they trusted who God placed around them.
I think they linked all the glasses that I was talking about earlier about separating. Instead of compartmentalizing, they realized, okay, this is the picture, but I'm going to focus on, and I'm thinking of in a lens, cameras, even our phones do that now. The new update for iPhones, actually you can change it where even on FaceTime, it kind of blurs what's behind you. And I feel like Caleb and Joshua made a decision. I was going to say Jacob for some reason, but Caleb and Joshua made a decision that they were going to kind of blur out the giants and they were going to focus on the good, the grapes, the milk and honey, because I believe that they trusted that God brought them to this place. So they were going to see the fruition of God's promises. So they decided to trust in the promises of God, not what they can see. And how many in our life have been put in that position where we had to trust God, even though it didn't look like there was a way out or there was a way of escape. And yet that's God's promise to us that he'll give us a way of escape. So I feel like they trusted not what was seen with their eyes, but they trusted in the eternal promise of God that he was going to make a way.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that. 100% they saw that. And actually it's interesting because Caleb, in verse 30, he made a declaration. He said something. He said, this is what he said. He came back and he said, we are well able to overcome it. And can I just make a statement here about if you're the person that comes into the room and says, hey guys, you know what? Listen, we're able to do this. Can I just tell you that you're not full of arrogance? Caleb was not full of arrogance. He was full of faith. And then we must have Caleb's attitude. Okay. And so with God's help, we're able to overcome it. That's what Caleb said. With God's help, we're able to overcome it. Amen. And I want to get to point number 4 here because this one is really, really, this one's a big one. Okay. Because who are you hanging around? Who are you allowing to speak into your life? Who do you give access to your life? Who are you listening to? And so number 4, we must resist the temptation, right? To heed to or give into or listen to complaining or defeated voices. So we must resist the temptation, right? To give into, listen to, follow, buy into, whatever word you want to use, heed, complaining, and defeated voices. So can I just say, unfortunately, the 10 spies who did not believe God captured the hearts of Israel. The 10 spies who didn't believe that God can do it, they captured the very heart of Israel. And so focusing on the obstacles, they took the heart right out of the people. If you are the person that's focusing, listen, it's okay to see the obstacles. It's okay to game plan for the obstacles. It's okay to pray that God will help you overcome the obstacles. It's okay to acknowledge the obstacles. It's okay to not fall into the obstacle, trip over the obstacle. But can I just tell you, it's not okay to focus on the obstacle. Because when you focus on the obstacle and you talk about the obstacle, not only will it take your heart, it'll take the heart of the people that you're leading and that you're impacting. And this took the heart right out of the people. And defeat and discouragement are contagious, just like passion is. What do you think?
Well, I immediately think of the scripture, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. I actually think defeat sometimes is more powerful. It's those little things that we allow. We got to remember that God will take our little bit and make it much. Mm-hmm. And so, whatever we have in our glass, and I think Dumasani kind of spoke on this a little bit too, is he'll take our little bit, offer your little bit. Offer, if right now you see a half empty glass, hand over to the Lord your half empty glass so that he may fill it and renew and refresh your heart and your mind and your thinking and your spirit and your soul and your faith. Hand it over to him. Just cast our cares upon him because he cares for us. So I think when we start to get our place to our minds and our hearts on a place of half empty, we isolate and we withdraw from the very thing that will allow our cup to be running over. So I think, again, it's our perspective, and what are we going to do with it? Are we going to hold on to it? And, that's the world stance. Like, we are a little bit, we're going to hold on to it. But here's the truth of the matter. Let's talk about little stories in the Bible. Little boy had 2 loaves and 5 fish, or is that the reverse?
5 fish, 2 fish, 5 loaves. Yeah.
The reverse, whichever. He had that. He took that little bit. God fed a multitude. I don't know why I just drew a blank. We just talked about that last week. Sorry, guys.
All right. It's like easy to get.
But, God took his little bit and made it much. I'm thinking about the lady that said she had a little bit of flour and oil, and she just had this little bit. And the prophet said, get vessels and bring it here. And then it multiplied it. She brought it, probably even a little bit faithless, like, okay, what are you going to do with it? And it multiplied it. God multiplied it. Our little bit, take our little bit, whatever it is, because guess what? God knows if that's where you're at right now. Mm-hmm. I think we got to be careful. I have a fine line of being so optimistic that you don't speak your reality, because I think it's really important to confess and say, this is what I'm thinking, whether it's within, just your prayer time with the Lord, or you're saying that, but make sure if you have that moment, that you're confessing that or speaking that to someone that's going to say, hey, no, this is what God said, that they're not going to jump on your bandwagon, right? They're going to actually speak life, and the Lord's going to use them to fill your cup and bring out faith in you. So I think you got to be careful where you do that, but I do think you can't ignore, right? We live in a real world that we do have challenges, and we do feel empty sometimes.
Sure.
But here's the thing. This morning when I was at the gym, I was doing presses, and it was like the last set, and I was just like, I'm done. And I had to I was doing curls, and when I did a curl with a bar, I was like, my last one, I was like, oh my God, I don't think I do this. When I finally, it was so weird. It was like the Lord showed, I actually had a picture when I handed it over to my trainer that was spotting me. When I handed it over, I was like, oh. He's like, oh, you couldn't wait to throw that over. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, that'll preach, because we're holding these curls, and we're holding it. And here's the thing. And we don't want to let go of it, because we don't want to be honest, right? We don't want to think, my gosh, I can't do another one. So we're holding on to it. But when I released it, it was like,
yeah.
And he took it, and it wasn't burdensome for him. So that's the same with the Lord. We're carrying this burden. And if we can just get our place, like take our little bit, like, I don't have much left, whatever you have, toss it over, and the Lord is going to lift it, and he's going to encourage you, because that was the next thing. Hey, you did it. You got it. That was the next, words from Justin. So I think that the Lord, if someone that is, an earthly friend that probably will fail me at one point, and I'll probably discourage him at some point by not showing up to a session, right? We're going to discourage each other. If he can say, hey, you did it. Good job. How much more is the Lord waiting for you to hand over your load, to look at you and not say, well, you suck, but to actually say, good job.
Yeah.
You made it this far. I'm with you. Let me carry that for you a little while.
Yeah, it's contagious. It's contagious. Passion's contagious. Enthusiasm is contagious, right? Love is contagious. Encouragement is contagious, but defeat and discouragement are also contagious. And so understand, I don't think that Diana said this a minute ago, and I'll kind of just maybe fine tune that and be direct with it. I don't think we always need to avoid discussing problems, but it should always be in the context of faith, right? Yeah. There's a difference in defeat and discouragement, having that defeatist, discouraging attitude, or discussing a problem, right? It should always be in the context of faith. There are times we need to look at a situation legitimately. If, for instance, I could take it, and I have taken that very many times, have taken that, hey, the role of a person, and it's not just her, there's other people around me in the business, but it's her. But I'm saying there's other people as well. I don't do well sometimes with the person that tries to point out the steps. And I want to say this, just really quick on a caveat. You could also, and I think you would agree with this, you could also overdo that.
Yeah.
And so that's another lesson for another day. Sure. Not her though, but just someone like her. So I can view that as negative. I can view that as discouraging. But the reality is, that's common. If you view it that way, and you're a visionary, what have you, then that's understandable. But here's the deal: there are times when we look at a situation. There are times when I look at a situation now, and legitimately decide that God would not have us go that way. Because, you know, I can tell you that I've learned to appreciate that. I've asked God multiple times and prayed for wisdom like Solomon, you know, and asked God for wisdom. And I'm going to tell you, I fell in holes many times. I've got, healed, broken leg bones, figuratively many times, from many times falling in. So there are times when I look at a situation and go, you know what? I don't believe that God will have us go this way. However, when God tells us it's his will and he gives us the opportunity, can I just say the opposite? When God tells us it's his will and he gives us the opportunity, regardless of the obstacles, look at the listen to this for a second. Put this in today's perspective. It's not 100% one way, even on a cautious side. Take that scenario, promised land, 12 people go that were picked by the leader, 10 come back and say, we can't do it. 2 go, we can do it with God. I can tell you that she may go, well, 10 people think it's not wisdom, David. We shouldn't be doing this. And she could be right or wrong. My point is, and you understand what I'm saying? Listen, put that in today's context for a second. Put that in today. Who and what? That would be going against the odds. So what I'm trying to tell you is if God's in it and he gives you the opportunity, listen to this. It's sin to refuse to trust him. That's deep and that's heavy. You go, well, what? Sin? You know, like the same sin is like sin? Yes. Because to them that know to do it good and do it not, it's sin. And so when God says it, to not trust him, use wisdom, but not trust him, then it's sin. And we could fall into that same category. So those defeating voices, are contagious, but there's always someone who tells us it can't be done. But if it's God's will, can I just say this? It can be done. Because I'm going to tell you, if it's so easy, you've heard this. If it's so easy that you don't need God, or that it's not really that big, or there's no risk, or then is it really a God thing? Because if you go by the God of the Bible and you read the stories that we preach about, we see God do things simply because he wants the glory. So I just think this is a really good subject we're talking about this week. I really do. What do you think? Great things are done. Can I just say great things are done when people refuse to be defeated?
That's true.
Great things are done when people refuse to be defeated and trust God for the victory. Winston Churchill, I study, I don't know. I like leadership and leaders, and I've got a book of speeches by Winston Churchill, and I've read a lot about him. But one of the famous quotes, and he has a lot of them, one of his famous quotes, I have a whole book of quotes by Winston Churchill. One of the famous quotes he said is this, and in the middle, by the way, of leading, a country, into World War II, in this whole time frame. But he said this, he said, a pessimist, you could put this in the quote, Mike, by Winston Churchill, you put this in there. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. And then he says, never, 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 never. He said it 4 times, give up.
Wow.
And that's a good quote. That's a good quote. So with God's help, nothing in our lives, nothing in our ministry, nothing in our career, nothing in our business, nothing in our dreams is impossible. So the glass is really half full, isn't it?
It always is.
What?
It always is. See that control.
No, I couldn't hear you in my ears. So I just wanted them to
I
hear
was
the
trying
word.
to connect
I wanted
with
to hear,
you.
but go like this. Look, let's watch this. Watch this, everybody. Watch. Look like this. Look to the side of your eyes, but don't move your mouth. Good. Look, move your eyeballs. See? Hey.
I can't. I'm going to be throwing eye darts in about 2 seconds.
I love you. All right. What do you guys say? Mike, Diane, do you have anything? We're out of time. You don't have any last
I was
minute?
just absorbing today because I feel like if I'm going to be honest, this week, I woke up every day so far wanting to get back in bed. So I've had to ramp myself up midday. So I think this was really meant for me, if nothing else.
But you've gone to the gym twice this week at 5 o'clock in the morning, even though you felt that way. So commit. You know what? Half full, baby. See, look at that.
Committed, even if you're having.
That's right. That's right. Mike?
Thank you all for tuning in today. We hope you guys are enjoying this series. We will be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, as we go to day 4 of this series, and then we will wrap everything up on Friday. Really quick, I want to say this. I can't give you guys a ton of details yet, but I want to give you guys a heads up. We are working on a very new way that we're going to be able to grow our community for Game Changer very, very soon. I'm just putting that out there basically to tease all of you guys, because I'm working on it right now, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll actually have everything wrapped up and we'll be able to announce it. But keep your eyes peeled for that. But on that side note, we also have a daily encouragement text that goes out every single morning that you guys can opt into for free. You can text the letters EZGC to 813-522-3356. If you're with us live on Facebook or YouTube, thank you for being with us. But if you cannot make it to our live streams, you can always keep up with us in 2 different ways. You can go to YouTube, search Game Changer Podcast Live, hit the subscribe button on our channel and the bell so that you get notified when we upload the episodes every single day. You can also find us on your favorite audio podcasting platforms, the biggest one being Apple Podcasts, that you guys can go to and subscribe to us so that you get the new episodes every single day when we upload them. To all of our people who are listening or watching this episode on replay, you guys can always join us live on Facebook or YouTube. Just search Game Changer Podcast Live, and we are live every single morning on both platforms, 8:30 a.m. EST, Monday through Friday. Make sure that you guys follow us on Instagram and social media. We post short bite-sized clips of the podcast episode, phone wallpapers, shareable graphics of quotes from the show, and much, much more. It is Game Changer Podcast Live on all of your social platforms. And then make sure that you guys keep your eyes peeled, because on Friday, we are dropping our newest Bible plan, Red Light, Green Light. It's a 5-day reading plan on YouVersion of the Bible app that you guys can also listen to the podcast series we did a couple weeks ago on it, so you can double dip. But make sure that you guys go find it, subscribe to it, read through it, and then let us know what you think. We'll be back tomorrow morning, bright and early. But thank you all for tuning in. And on that note,
we out.